Yeah. In terms of the Part 2 and its references to Schedule 8, which amends the Local Electoral Act and the way in which boards are to be elected, this bill is quite Orwellian in some of the language it uses. In Part 1 of the bill, it set out the purpose of local boards, and that was to enable democratic decision-making by and on behalf of communities within the local board area. And Part 1 set out the functions, duties and powers of boards and their decision-making responsibilities and their funding policies. And Part 2, in the relationship to the schedule, sets out how they are to be elected. But there was quite a lot of concern amongst some submitters that it would be all very well and good, and it may well strengthen democratic decision-making, if the local boards were an adjunct to the existing governance structures, particularly as community boards have got very little recognition in the Local Government Act. But this bill doesn't do that. It doesn't add them to the existing council structure. It's actually proposing local boards as being able to be used by the Local Government Commission in any reorganisation proposal to replace existing independent and, as Sir William Seo said, competent councils. And there were quite a few submitters who expressed concern about this. One, a former City Councillor, Dr Robin Gwynn of the Napier Council, said in relation to Napier, and he thought a large majority of other places in New Zealand, that the purpose of enabling democratic decision-making would be better achieved if the government didn't proceed with this part of the legislation. Because we have seen in Part 1, where it sets out the powers of local boards, that they are quite limited. That a local board doesn't have separate legal standing from the unitary authority, it can't hold or dispose of property, it can't enter into contracts, it can't appoint, suspend or remove staff, and it can't be involved in legal action, and the schedule makes that also clear. Nor can a local board levy rates, make bylaws or other regulations. It's only got recommendatory powers. And the experience with these boards in Auckland is that they only control 3 to 5% of the budget of the Auckland Council collectively, but they have got a lot of responsibilities imposed upon them for the delivery of services and functions by the Council. And what we're seeing is the government's very ad hoc approach to local government, ad hoc reorganisation proposals in Hawke's Bay, in Northland and in Wellington, without any clear vision for what the relationship should be between central government and local government, except that this government wants more power in the beehive, wants more power centralised, and local boards are a way of reducing quite significantly the strength and democratic powers of local government. Because where you get a unitary, you get the boards replacing the district and city councils. So in Northland, where you may have had around 35 elected councillors, they would be replaced on the unitary with 10 councillors and a chair, and you'd have local boards as well. Those councillors would be representing many more people, and so you're centralising power in that unitary authority. And when you combine that with the changes elsewhere in this bill, which override the special consultative procedures, which reduce the ability of councils and remove the requirement for councils to use the special consultative procedure on significant decisions such as the establishment of council-controlled organisations. So you're reducing the consultative requirements, you're centralising power onto the unitary authorities, you're providing boards with very limited powers. That is a major undermining of democracy. And we are surprised that the Labour Party is actually voting for this bill, because of course it was the Labour Party in 2002 which established those special consultative procedures and which sought to strengthen democracy, when this part of the bill, Part 2 and Schedule 8, in relation to the local boards, substantially reduce democracy by replacing good and competent councils with local boards with much reduced powers.
Call Phil Twyford. Thank you, Mr Chairman. Let me follow on from Eugenie Sage in discussing in part 2 some of the schedules that relate